right. Hello, everybody. I might as well get starting a few minutes early because I actually have my act together. Got all my stuff set up more or less, which is shocking. Hi, Mary Beth. How are you today? Good to see you, or sort of see you. um, I decided that today I'm going to start working on a new painting. So I've got a sketch laid down. This will be kind of a continuation of the series that I was doing with that piece with the prickly with the cactus. I hear you on the tired thing. It was a heck of a weekend, I think. It was for me, I know for sure. Hopefully good nights of sleep for everybody all around tonight. I am laying out my picture. You might just barely be able to see my sketch here, where my character, the face is sort of like cropped oddly on the side. I do that on quite a few of my pieces, and it's a deliberate choice to kind of create some weird tension through the layout. Cat hair and everything. The cat's been up on my desk quite a lot lately. Yeah. So deliberately odd cropping. That is a choice that I made in terms of like kind of feeding into what I want with the look of the piece. Okay. I'm in pretty good shape to get started. I'm actually, for once and forever, going to clean up my palette a little bit. I couldn't tell you when the last time I did that was. I kind of like having it be a little messy because makes for some nice, not overly saturated, overly clean colors. But hey, every now and again, gotta clean things up. Oh, there we go. Not perfect. Over the years I've had this palette, there's been little spots of splatters from other materials, acrylics, inks, whatever. So I said to somebody earlier that was mentioning something about things being messy. And I told them, and I kind of, once I said it, I'm like, that's so true. Messes are proof that we've lived. If you don't have a mess, if you didn't make a mess, it's fine. But if you do, it's proof of an experience that you've had. So is that the worst thing, really? Okay. So I guess we can get started with laying down a base layer or two. I think I'm going to start with a mid-tone-ish kind of warmer color for this guy. A nice little moppy brush. Well, yeah, my weekend was crazy for having spent Sunday, pretty much most of Sunday in the car. Traveled a little bit to see some family. That an aunt that is in recovery from a stroke. So it's a tough, long day, but it was important to do that. I think in total about 6 hours in the car, which is tiring. And then I woke up the morning of, like, with that weird feeling in your throat you get when you think that's that you might be getting sick, or you don't know whether it's that or allergies. And that kind of stuck with me through the day. And then today I still have it a little bit, but it's not as bad. So I'm not really sure what is going on with my system, whether it's complaining about allergies or if it is like a cold, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes it seems like your bodies like to have the best of us. Keep you guessing. So my inspiration for this painting is the idea of a black sheep. Like the saying of a black sheep, that somebody's a black sheep of a family, or the feeling of it, is what makes a person a black sheep. It's not really themselves exactly. It's like it's more like a lack of, what's the word I'm thinking of? Just acceptance of like a certain status quo, of like a way that it is expected that you should be or present yourself or whatever. And by simply not meeting those expectations, a person can become a black sheep. So that's going to start to make more sense as I work out the upper part of my painting here. I'm getting there. There we go. And it's funny, I'm thinking about the imagery that I'm using here, like in the intention of provoking the idea of sheep, having sheep horns. I know that there is a reference in there to what people think of as like demons, and I think that's kind of interesting and amusing. What's really interesting about that is when you just think about the entire idea of that animals that are considered scary enough to be thought of in our mythology as very evil and threatening and dangerous are plant eaters. They have side-facing eyes and cloven hooves, whereas for creatures that are actual predators and dangerous to us, which would be front-facing eyes, teeth, sharp teeth, claws, nails, we tend to think of them as more cute and fuzzy. Wild cats and wolves and dogs and things along those lines. It's very interesting how one thing, and it's like as if just for the sake of it being more foreign to us and more alien to and different than us, that we decide that it is somehow a bad thing. Very fascinating. All right, a little more color here. just finish some of this lower level stuff. Just kind of work up some of my darks a little bit. Not too much, like I don't want this color to be too prominent once I start adding my other layers, but just to give me an idea of where the darkest areas are. Okay. And that's pretty close to where I want to be for this first layer. Okay, that can be let go to settle in and dry a little bit. I can start thinking about, well, that's drying, some other layers that I will be including in this piece too. Oh, I'm sorry, Mary Beth. That was terrible. It's always hard. It seems like so many people are going through bad health scares and losses right now. I don't know if it's something in the universe or what, but it's not fun. It's not easy, ever. And I'm very sorry. Yeah, that's something that somebody is not experiencing a battle and in pain. Yeah, I am glad for that also, for you and for him. It is, it feels like a consolation prize, but there is truth in that for sure. I've discovered that, or I've kind of come to realize that I do my best processing of things through my painting, because I'm not the best at recognizing emotions, processing them, especially in like a healthy, constructive way. But when I can get in the studio and paint, then I'm more likely to like kind of find ways to deal with things and to sort of work through stuff in a much more productive way than maybe it would be otherwise. That's something I think I've been doing a really long time without really understanding that that's what I was doing until recently. Yeah, art is an amazing way to meditate on things and think about. It's got to be something in that, since it's such a powerful form of therapy, using art. We just kind of inherently seek that out ourselves. I have a stack of some more magazine cuttings from old magazines that I'd put aside and just came across today after some time, that I pulled out because they were very interesting. This is a very old photo of a fencer's mask, a face behind a fencer's mask. Looks almost sci-fi, very creepy and interesting. So that's something that I pulled out. I believe this was for an ad for a heating blanket. Isn't that something that now, I know when I was a kid I had like an electric heating blanket on my bed at some point. Don't they say that's not safe anymore? Just a fellow with some swanky hair. A diver's face plate or swimmer face plate. Just full reflection. Very weird. I love this stuff. Cameraman holding a camera with a unusual viewfinder. And a doctor's head mirror. Just with a little lighting, some very random everyday things can become very odd and interesting. I like this photo for the sheer mass of people in it. Thought that was pretty interesting to be cut up and used in different areas. That is. Sometimes I can't remember exactly what it was, so I look at both sides to make sure that I'm not forgetting something interesting that was there. And that's some pieces. I don't know if any of those will make it onto this in particular, but yeah, I like that. I like all of those elements. I have a lot of random bits all over the place, and that's the problem of having them all over the place too, is I don't always know where everything is. I forget what I have. It is the mess that proves that I create art in my studio. That's still quite wet. Got a little heavy with the first layer. So let me think. What else can we throw on here? Oh yeah, look, my oil pastels. Right where they don't belong. There's a tiny little piece of a face on here, on this little crescent. I think I'd cut out a piece of it for something else. I think that might be, I don't know, you probably can't see it in this lighting. It might be Taylor Swift. Just the top of her face. I don't know. I don't know people well. It's just a guess. Maybe some animal print to go with the theme. I like this. It's a peppers. Just the color though, and the organic shapes. Thus far that's very yellow, and I don't want to have it be too one color, because that is just not the way that my world exists. I'm always adding to this bin of pieces that I've cut out. I have a bin separately from this that's like words and phrases that I've cut out. I'll definitely be digging into there. Soft. That's interesting. So, what do I like? I couldn't tell you why on earth I would have ever bought a bag of like star confetti, but it's in here in case any use comes to my mind. Old shoe. I like that. It definitely fits. It's that idea of who we're supposed to be, maybe in terms of families, but also in terms of society and communities, whether that be like society at large or towns or neighborhoods or churches or schools, peers, any of those things. I'm definitely going to use this. I picked this up at the waste shed some time ago out of their bin of like random postcards and things. And yeah, that's definitely going on here. Life choices fall into those categories of not following the status quo. Or indeed following it and realizing after the fact that it was the wrong decision. Now, I only can ever speak from my own experiences in my art. I imagine there must be many people who would be able to relate on some level to some things and or find their very own meanings in what I pull together. But I do speak based on what I've lived and experienced and seen. So I don't hope that anybody takes anything offensively or wrong or as judgment on anybody else's choices or lives at all. It is not that. All right, there's enough to get started with. I'm going to cut this down a little bit and get it on here. And it's going to be like a base of something that I will probably layer on top of a bit. So then the question is, how big or small and where? My first instinct was just to put it very straight over here somewhere, just very much, hey, look, there's a composition. Usually my first instinct isn't always the best one, so taking a moment to think about that. You know, I think I might go with it. One of the things that I will never forget from art school and illustration major was one of the early assignments in illustration 1, my sophomore year. We were learning about the idea of thumbnailing. I think, you know, when you're coming up with the idea for compositions or whatever, that you make little small sketches and work it out ahead of time. For one assignment, we had to make and turn in 50 different thumbnails. 50! That felt absolutely impossible and insane, but it allows you to like get out some of the most obvious. Ooh, kind of like it up there too. It allows you to get out some of the most obvious solutions right off the bat, like the first obvious easy things that come to you. And then it gets harder and you have to attempt to be clever, but you're also coming up with 50, so you put down a lot of garbage too. Yeah, it gets a little nuts. Some of like it kind of devolves into just anything and everything just to start to meet your number. But then at some point something starts to happen and the ideas start to kind of come back around again. Yeah. I just remember getting that assignment and being like, you have to be kidding, this is not even possible. And then you know what ended up happening? The thumbnail that got chosen for me to complete that project was number 50. And I mean, part of it was to just make a point about like the advantage of doing that. But like it really was one of the better solutions that I'd had. One of the better thumbnails concepts. So that's kind of funny. I think about that sometimes. I don't always work. I work from thumbnails more like if I'm hired to create something, if I'm doing an illustration, much more so than if I'm just doing like a piece like this. Although I sometimes do also. My idea for this one came actually from looking through old work of mine from a few years back. And very unsuccessful piece and attempt, but I liked the idea. So here we are. This darn thing. The cap won't fit on it anymore for whatever reason, because I think I lost the cap for a few days, and so when I tried to put it back on, it just never came back into place right. So now it's like clogged up easily, which is a real pain. I still have enough left in here that I'm not about to give up on it. There's easily a quarter of this thing still full of good stuff. Good usable stuff. Alright, there's a chunky brush I can use for this. Again, this is postcard, so I need a decent amount of adhesive. All the way to the edges, all the edges. Then, since I'm working flat with this, I might put a little, I have this is a illustration block that I'm working on. So I'm actually going to set some weights on here to kind of help get it to take relatively flat. Hopefully, sides won't curl up too much. That's the idea anyway. Whether it works or not, it's often just best intentions. There. Use what you got. Okay, so that's gonna have a minute to set. This is still a little bit damp. I still have a lot of stuff over here I can use. I don't know if I want to put any down yet at this point. Maybe this one I will put down on the edge where I can kind of allow the leg that's showing is less important and interesting to me than the pattern, but it is still interesting to me, so I don't want to completely obfuscate it. I'm gonna let it, I will let it bleed off the edge a little bit, I think, so I can trim it nice and sharp. So that will go here, maybe. And there was another piece with some text on it somewhere that I grabbed. Be too sweet. Nothing like taking little bits of like marketing text and article headlines and taking them out of context. That makes some of the best little statements. So now, let me see. I decided to use my glue as a weight, which was smart. There we go. There we go. Work with what you got. All right, this one first. Come on, you can do it. That should do it. I don't need a ton of adhesive for this super flimsy it's not newsprint, it's magazine paper, which is super flimsy. Push that down a bit. Try to work out air bubbles inside here at the top. All right. There's some glue kind of being spread on the paper, but that's fine because this area won't be probably using any watercolor there. So between the give me a ring bit and this be too sweet, any other text that I might use will probably be much more subtle and like integrated into the piece. The be too sweet, of course, being, I mean, both these statements being kind of ironic in my mind. All right. But where will this go in my composition is the question. If it's not, if I'm not feeling it, I don't have to make the decision right away. I'm just going to put that to the side then. Maybe add another more textural piece. And I think this is probably fine. Yeah, that'll be fine. Fine enough. So maybe just maybe bring it right onto her here. Yeah, let's do it. What I'm really gonna need to do is take the whole top out of this thing and a needle and some tweezers and scrape it out. I've had to do that every so often with this particular bottle, which is a pain, but it's the thing about working with adhesives. At least it's not the kind of adhesive that makes you glue your fingers together, or it's not like resin, which when you get it on your skin isn't coming off for a couple days if you're lucky. This paper is a bit of a heavier, just non-coated paper. But anytime they're a little heavier, they go on much nicer. I'm going to brush on a little bit on the top too, just to act as a little barrier to other mediums. Oh, guess who's here? Hello, Watson. That's my boy. All right, here we go. Got that coated. Now I did not do that with this piece, but I'm not too worried about it because it is actually a coated cardstock. And it will get some layers of something will start hitting that too. UHU stick. Like, is that the glue, the actual stick? I used that for a while, but I don't know if it was just the one that I had or maybe my technique. But I thought that I was finding that it wouldn't always adhere everything as strong as I wanted it to. So that's when I switched to using this stuff. And I'm not sure where, like, the significant differences between this and Elmer's glue. I just for the fact I get this because it's neutral pH, so I figure, I don't know, Elmer's may be too, for all I know. I don't know, but I just like figure it's decent staying power, and it's not very expensive. Like maybe I want to say maybe $7 for this bottle, which lasts me quite a long time. I just have to do surgery on the on the nozzle every now and again. Yeah, the paper texture for the stick, yeah, that makes sense. Is I had something that I did, one of the pieces I did for my inspiration project, the 100 portraits in 100 days, when I'd gone back to do some scanning of all of those pieces, I had pieces that were adhered with a glue stick coming off, so I had to re-adhere them. I think I ended up using just medium, like a acrylic medium, which works fine too. And yeah, sometimes I do just use medium also, it just depends. Yeah, and since that happened, I'm just like, I'll just be safe and go with the other, but probably just straight paper on paper would work much better for the glue stick. All right, I think I'm in pretty good shape with what I've done so far for the portrait here. To maybe start adding another layer. Yeah, gel medium, absolutely. I've done that a lot. And then at some point I started using this and I've just sort of stuck with it. Okay, so maybe a layer with some shadows next. I'm going to use a little, like a cooler shadow layer. I'm going to use a stiffer brush so that I can control my edges a little bit more than that big moppy guy. And let's get a little, whoa. That's super saturated. Yeah, a lot more water, that guy. Okay. That should be all right. That should work. All right, so now some shadows. This is probably one of the most not great brushes that I have for watercolor, but I still tend to use it a lot. Just because sometimes I want something that's a little stiffer. It's not a great point. It's not like the best cut round brush, and honestly most of the label is completely worn off of it, so I can't even tell you what it was, like what brand or anything. But I still tend to reach for it quite often, so yeah, the things that end up in our toolkits for one reason or another. Okay. So this is a very... Oh, half of what I was doing there, you couldn't even see. That's her hairline that I was kind of working on. I'm just seeing a lot of reflections in it right now. I've been working at trying to figure out better my lighting situation. I've been doing some research because it seems like things are either too dim or too washed out. And I'm having a hard time like kind of consolidating that. So I've come to some, I think, conclusions about what I need to do to make things work better for lighting for both working and streaming and videotaping. So I will be making some changes pretty soon, and it turns out that where I can get what I think will work, what I'd like to make work, is I can get it at IKEA, which is, I'm very close to an IKEA, and that's very affordable. So yay, win-win. So hopefully this week I'll get my butt over there so that I can get that going. I actually have it in my mind to do a bit of an almost entire studio reset up based on how I'm working in here now. I had it set up completely differently back when I was doing just regular YouTube videos. And then I changed it when I wasn't doing videos anymore and I just needed it to work for doing some work. And now doing live streams as well as adding in different ways of painting than I was doing before, like has me rethinking the way to set this up, and I don't know, that could make for a fun and interesting stream, perhaps. Going through the setup, but yeah, I'd like to get the lights that I want to use first. Okay. So that didn't add a ton of color, but what that does is gives me the coolness where I need it for the shadow a little bit, tones down the bright orange colors. Okay. There we've got 2 layers of paint down. All right. As soon as I think like, okay, this is a good place to stop on this layer, I add more. Agent of Chaos. Okay. Getting too much of a outline that happened here after my initial layer. I want to kind of let that soften a little bit. You always have to be careful when you do that on watercolor paper, because depending on your paper, it only will accept so much abuse before you start to create problems for yourself. Okay. Maybe just a little bit more here. All right, getting a decent start. Okay. All right, I'm gonna let that dry. Where are we here? Right, not bad for just a couple initial layers to get started with. Let me just do one more little. Okay. No, seriously. Seriously, I will stop. Okay. So I got a couple pieces of the collage elements down. I have 2 layers of watercolor paint down, and could start building some of the paint and other elements. I could use some of the oil pastels. I do have chalk pastels too. which I've barely used. We'll see. Maybe more likely would use those towards the end. Interesting thing with the oil pastels is oil and water, you know, separate, push each other away. So if I put oil down somewhere where I'm going to paint the watercolors, it repels it away and can be interesting, depending on if I have like a strong enough idea for what that might be. But perhaps even using them maybe on some of the horn to create some of the striation, the textures. Maybe a little bit of that. I'm using a light blue. They don't tell me the proper colors on here. It just says Weber oil pastel. That's all they all say. Made in Korea. Back in the 1960 or something. Okay, let me think if that's what I'd like to leave it at. Okay. I think that's about good enough. Okay. I had a while back decided to play with like what I could achieve with using just oil pastels on a piece, and that is definitely not my thing. That is what I learned from that experience. But you don't know until you try. So it is fun to try things. It is always good to be willing to experiment and see. Not everything that you make has to be a for sure like finished project. Just learning stuff and attempting things is a good thing to do. Okay. Let's see. A couple other textural pieces can start going in here. Kind of let some things be base layers that can be at least partially covered up, if not almost completely, which would be fine. I grabbed this piece kind of for the same reason I grabbed this one. But now that I'm seeing it on here, it's very dark, and I'm not so sure that works for me. So we're going to put that to the side as a probably not getting used piece and move along a little bit. Maybe add my peppers here. All right. If I can even open this. Man, my grip is garbage today. Okay. Wow. Just a little while ago, I was like going through this trying to open a jar of like Jardinier. For the life of me, it did not want to open. And the silly thing being that I'm probably the one that shut it. Okay. So I did see an absolutely ridiculous movie this weekend. Megan, which is like the new version of Chucky, I guess. The doll, robot doll that looks like a girl. And that movie is exactly what you would think it's going to be, like beat for beat. I watched the unrated version, so I don't know if there's a difference between that and the theatrical release, but it was outside of I think maybe like a couple very brief moments of what they'd call gore, I suppose, or blood or whatever, but I don't know. It was a perfectly acceptable, competently made horror movie that was boring in its predictableness. Like beat for beat, you could call exactly what was going to happen through the whole thing, make assumptions about what was going to happen with the characters, how it was all going to unfold. Like not a single thing that you haven't seen before. And that's annoying. I mean, they spent some money on that movie. Why not do something interesting? And I'm always wondering, like, I didn't really take the time to think about that much. There didn't feel like there was much to think about in that film, but does it have anything to say? Like, was there a voice behind making it, or was it just like a cynical studio cash grab film? If you want to say that maybe some kind of statement about the ethics of technology, yeah, I guess, but yeah, it's a little weak. I mean, in that topic, there definitely is room for interesting conversation and storytelling and question asking, but this was just a less original version of Chucky, because at least Chucky was the first time that Chucky was Chucky. There was nothing interesting about it. So, for a lightweight horror movie, entertaining, think about nothing for an hour and 40 minutes, I guess I'd recommend it, but not for any other reason. I've still been chewing on a movie that I finished the previous week, The Love Witch. And something just never quite sits with me about it. It's like, is it supposed to be feminist or anti-feminist? And that's like the message of it is so muddled that I don't know. I'm really not sure exactly what the director was trying to say with that one. Clearly trying to say something, but I don't know. This texture is from a sweater, I believe, or some knit thing in some magazine section that I'm sure had something to do with fashion. I like the colors and the texture here, and even here, the checkers. I don't think I'm going to use this whole thing, but I did grab it as a possible element. I wonder about it being like a suggestion of hair, which I have to work around. Like I cut the different lines there, but maybe that would be interesting. Blunt pencil here. Let's see. I don't need to cut too deeply in there, just a little bit. That's not working too well. Okay, I think I can see those lines well enough to attempt to cut it out, and we'll see how it goes. Nothing's lost if I do it wrong. Not a thing. So this was here. If there's anything that I'm not good at and don't get a kick out of, it's very like exact work. Like I could not be a person who works on very complicated artwork involving perspective and lots of straight lines and complex shapes that have to be very refined and exact. I mean, painting people is enough, like, exactness, but it's upside down. How would we do? Yeah. Okay, and then maybe I'll add some, continue that over on the other side. No, I barely need to. Just a very little bit of adjustment for coming in at the other side of it. If I try to match that shape and line a little bit. Kind of like that. I'm going to remove this little tab because that looks weird, even though I could just cover it with paint too. I don't know why, but I like it, and I'm going to go with it. It's very dark at the moment, but knowing myself and how I work, it will get layered upon. All right, where's my junky brush here? Yeah. All right, now the bigger one. Never know what you're going to see when you turn over a piece from a magazine. Usually not very exciting, but I always have to look. I'm using my other glue down pieces as a background to brush glue on these pieces because, well, there's already glue on them, so it doesn't really hurt or affect them in any negative way. Oh, what happened there? Okay. It looks like a mess now, but messes are okay. I do still kind of want to use a shoe. That's very central in the picture, and so I need to think about how that will affect things. I don't necessarily want this to be the focal point of the piece, so by placing it in a very central location, I have to consider that may happen with it, that may kind of be an unintended consequence. Falling off the page, maybe. That might work. Yep, let's do it. Come on, glue. Let's go. The lighter layer of adhesive that can be on there, the better chances of not having a lot of air bubbles when adhering it down, because then it's not like terribly saturated. Maybe my little "be too sweet" quote will kind of fall off here in the corner. It won't be terribly obvious. I always use the back of my hand to tell if this is still cool to the touch, so I know it's not entirely dry. Oh, it's getting close. Not only is that like a nice way to tell without tell the temperature of the paper very easily, but it avoids me touching it with my very dirty fingers from gluing and doing all these other things. Oh, there's my Watson kitty. He's napping under my desk. He's so cute. Keeping me company, just doing his own thing. Okay. I've gotten a lot of collage done here. There might come more that would be a little bit more textural, that would get pretty buried, perhaps. Perhaps. So I've created an interesting little conundrum here where it's like a little frame, but it works compositionally because here's my face and this comes off, but then it loops right back to the face. So as long as I use this smartly, intelligently, and think about it, it should work to my favor. Hopefully. That's the goal. Always the goal. Outcome unknown at all times. Okay. So my little black sheep piece here is coming along nicely. Got a good go on it. And let me think. I don't think I want to do any more painting on it. Like my cool side here, the cool shades are got quite saturated with water, so I don't want to risk destroying my paper this early on in the process. Well, not at all, ideally, but what happens, happens. Oh, do I want to lay down any other paint before? Let me see, what have I got? That's interesting. Ooh, I just went shopping for art supplies. Oh. I haven't even opened the bag and unwrapped it all yet. I got a really cheap book of newsprint to paint on, and the idea of that being stuff that I can take like to my classes or do demos and things on. But they had buy one get one free on sketchbooks, so I got some really nice big Canson paper. It's recycled paper, which this still looks very good for recycled paper or white paper. And it's 50 pound. It's not like super heavy, but for sketchbooks and the way that I use my sketchbooks, they're not precious at all. It's just getting ideas out and working through things. So it's perfect. Especially buy one, get one free. Let's yes. A new brush for watercolor painting. This one is an flat angled brush. I only have one other angled brush for watercolor painting, and it's much bigger. And I don't use it that often. I probably could use it a lot more than I do. I don't think to grab it. It's like this has really come in handy when I've need to do anything like plants and that sort of thing, or really straight lines. But I thought this could help me to do some more detailed, really straight things that would still come in handy for portraits and people. So excited to give this brush a go. Maybe the next time I'm painting. Oh, a couple of micron pens, because the ones that I have are quite old and they're starting to lose their ability to do ink. And I got one that was a color. I'm curious, what does that look like? It's the brush pen. So I can get some heavier lines. Oh, it's like a rusty. I think it said that it was rose or something when I picked it, but it's fairly brownish. Oh, there we go. Kind of dark brown, dark reddish brown. That's okay. It works. I will use it. The ever important brush soap, Master Soap. I need a container to put this in, and but in the past I bought the little canisters that close, and I go through them so fast. And this is more affordable, more soap, so all I need to do is get a little soap dish and like something cheap. And yeah, I was getting low. This is very important. An eraser, because this particular style of eraser I just didn't happen to have any of. I have kneaded erasers. I have like the clicky pencil type erasers that are great for doing very detailed work. And I'm looking around my desk as I'm listing these things off. You don't know where they are right now. Maybe they're in the living room. Oh, I do know where they are. They're in a bag that I'd packed to take this last weekend. Anyway, okay. Eraser. And the rest is all paints. Stocking up on paints. I got mostly acrylic paint, but I did buy a few oils. It's a very basic set, so I've been kind of filling in the things that I don't have and would like to have. Like I got yellow light because the set that I bought, like starter set, came with a yellow lemon color, and it's like too citrusy yellow, too hot of a yellow. Wanted something a little softer. I bought, oh, here's one of those words I can't say very well. Quinacridone. Don't blame me, I can't pronounce things. I just read it. I know it when I see it, but I can't say it. Yes, so a different type of red besides the just cadmium red that I have. And a raw sienna, because that didn't happen to come with the set, and it's kind of a nice base color to use for any neutral tones. And then it was mostly just restocking on acrylic paints for things that I was running out of. Raw umber, phthalo blue, cadmium free orange. I got the quinacridone rose color too. Oh, that's another oil. Oh, that was, oh my goodness, I need to keep myself straight. I had my oil and my acrylic one screwed up. Okay, I got a green because I don't have any greens. Medium magenta. And yeah, my big old Payne's gray. So I am stocked for my acrylics. They were having like their winter sale, so, and I had a gift card that I could use. So that helped a lot. Stock up when things are on sale and I have some money to spend there, then it doesn't hurt so badly. Oh yeah. Do I want to actually, thinking about putting any color down. Maybe a little bit. So I'm thinking that without knowing exactly where this is going to end up color and temperature wise, that I will tread fairly lightly over here, but the beautiful thing about the way that I work is that I can just add more layers of texture and things with other materials if something's too strong or too light or whatever. This is I bought a couple of these interesting permanent acrylic markers, 3D double liner. It is like it has nozzles. It's not exactly a marker, but it's nozzles. I'm trying to hold this in a way that the camera's focusing on it a little bit. Kind of. One end it's a fine point, the other end is this big wide edge. But yeah, to put that down, it's a real wide, which creates some nice texture. And I think that that might actually be more beneficial when I'm getting into the top layers, but that's one that I have that's interesting. And you would think from this tube that it'd be more green. It doesn't actually say anywhere the color is, but if you look at that, it looks pretty green, whereas this looks like teal, which is, I grabbed another teal, and well, that's the exact same color. So I'll do that. Maybe some, this is what I hate about these tubes. Can you see how the top just like cracked apart as I was trying to undo it? Oh, I hate these. Like golden is great quality paints, but these tube caps are garbage. This always happens. And I think that's a lot of what I bought this time are just like this. Where is the quality control? All right, well, this is a very similar color, just a little bit more green, a little bit lighter. Oh, look, this is peeling up a little bit on the outer edge. I'll have to, here, maybe add a little bit of paint down there and let that be the adhesive. So, just going a little wild. I mean, you kind of just have to start somewhere, right? When you're working this openly. So it can be very intuitive in the beginning with some ideas about what is and isn't going to work. But otherwise, yeah, just get going. .3D liner, another nozzle tipped paint thing. It's kind of interesting. It sort of reminds me of those 3D puff paints from back in, I don't know, was that like the early 90s where you could paint your own shirts and it was like a little squeezy bottle? Yeah. Well, it did things. It's fine. Yeah, probably add some more of that as I go. I kind of like that. So this right now is kind of just playing and experimenting and seeing what I like or not. I haven't actually decided if I'm going to use any, like purposefully use any black like paint or anything in this piece, being as it is like, you know, black sheep idea. but I don't usually use black paint unless it's for like a very specific thing. I might use black ink or like a little bit of a pen type thing or marker. But yeah, I don't usually like use black paint in the collage. Or very often in mixing colors at all too. And that's a carryover from things that I've learned over the years that are probably more like personal preference type things, not actually hard rules. And I'm all about breaking assumed rules. So you may see me break that rule now that I've thought about it, and yeah, very possibly. Okay. All right, I think this is a good stopping point. I put down a lot of some heavy stuff on here that will need to dry. This is really close to being able to have another layer done, but if I start painting on that, I'm going to drag my hand right through this stuff that I just did. So it's not like a really good point to just sort of walk away and kind of plan out what my next layers on the watercolor will be. And I will save this piece to work on stream. And I think that the prickly piece that I finished took about 4 streams. I might be moving a little faster with the beginning of this one, but I don't know where it'll go. Yeah, we'll see. We'll try to get this done entirely on stream. I might include some transfer print maybe, and I could kind of show that process a little bit if anyone's interested. And I sometimes use that in some element or another. So that could be something that would be fun to put in here because I didn't do it in the last couple of paintings I did. And I will think about if I want to use any elements of like assemblage, like I did with the Bowie portrait, where I used a couple like little toys that were painted and added them on. So yeah, I think that's where we are. It's going on an hour and a half of me jabbering at ya and working. So yeah, good point. I'm thus far pretty happy with where I am, and fingers crossed it'll stay that way. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you, Mary Beth. It's good to chat with you. And see you Thursday. Oh yes, that would be great. I will be back at this Thursday, 10 a.m. I'll either be working on this or maybe I'll try something with the studio. It's going to be one or the other. I will settle that for sure the next day or two. I mean, I have to. Probably will be working on this piece. I don't think I have enough time to get ready to do anything else. But yeah. Okay. So yes, thank you for joining. Hope to see anybody and everybody Thursday. Have a great night and get some rest out there. Get some good sleep tonight and take care. All right. Bye, everybody.